Hello, I'm Scott Witten from the ITOM business unit.
And I'm Adam Stout from the Performance Analytics business unit.
So Adam, we're going to talk about profiles today, and I think we've got two different varieties, but it may make the most sense for us to kind of walk through a real world scenario. So I'm going to channel my inner Heath Ramsey, and I'm going to say, Adam, something is happening at Nike, and I need you to get in contact with them. What do you do?
Well, every time I talk to a customer, the first thing I want to do is get a quick understanding of where that customer is, what they purchased, where their implementation is, what they're using. So I go to the customer business unit profile, and I specifically go to my licensed BU profiles in the product success app, and I type in the customer's name. We all know we have lots of accounts with similar names, so I just put in the part that I know. So in this case, Nike, and I see that we have 2 accounts named Nike. From here, I only have to choose from 2 and not 200, as we might have in accounts, and I know that I'm looking at Nike Inc. So I click into the BU profile for Nike Inc. And from here, I get a quick overview to understand that they're a decent-sized customer, Performance Analytics. We haven't set a health status for them yet. They're licensed for PA. They've been a ServiceNow customer for many years and been a Performance Analytics customer for quite a few years as well. That gives me a little bit of understanding. I have some implementation and adoption information for PA is really useful. For some of the other BUs, we really have to get in some more details first.
And you can see right here, just to interrupt, you can see they only have 1 production instance, which does simplify a little bit as we're trying to narrow in on some of the usage data.
Yeah, really useful to have. We understand which one they're using. Very simple, but if there were 2 or multiple production instances, it does help me understand which one should I be looking at, or at least to make sure I ask which one I should be looking at. And then we store a little bit of information about the team so that I can store that they have 5 people working on performance analytics and some notes about the quality of their team or any issues that we might have or things I need to look out for. And of course,
when I looked at this form first, that section kind of threw me. And then I toggled and you got help here, which helped me really understand what is that. And again, there's a little question mark at the top. Regular platform functionality, but this contextual help is really helpful to see the various fields and the related lists at the bottom.
Yes, everybody has to go back and read the docs every once in a while. So we have the team section, and then I have notes, just some overall notes, again, that pertain to the BU, to performance analytics and Nike. I can store that here and refer back to that as I need to. And then what happens is I go down to the related list and start looking for a little bit more information. So I know they're a big customer. I know they've been a customer for a while. Now let's understand where they're at. So from here, I'm going to look really first at the BU contacts. If I need to reach out to them, I'm going to look here and go, do I have any contacts that are specific to performance analytics? And if so, what do they have? So I might have already tagged their performance analytics administrator or their analytics champion. What the BU contacts does is take the sales contacts that we have, where we might have a couple hundred or a few hundred or 1,000 for the entire account, and allows me to refine that to, these are the people that support my business unit at that customer. So I'll look there. In this case, we don't have any.
You want to show one?
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead and add one. So Stacy Crow, we're going to put in, there we go, Stacy Crow.
And you see there's duplicates here, and I get this question quite a bit. There's duplicates here because there's duplicates in CRM. So we probably need to have an effort on the sales side to kind of clean up contacts. But I think the best advice that I can give is provide one that has the most information. But for Stacy, she's only got one, so that's good. We'll move her over and save her. And we don't ever, if I remember correctly, we don't ever want to click on the new contact button because it doesn't do anything. We're kind of using other people's code here, right?
No, the new contact actually does work here, but I still go with the, I don't want to click on it. The first thing I always want to do is add existing contacts because we don't want to contribute to that multiple problem. So the first thing is go look for existing contacts if they are not there, which in the PA, in my space, yeah, sometimes not everybody's a sales contact. Their PA admin may not be a sales contact, but I'm going to go ahead and add them. This is the same list that the PLS have access to as well. So as the PLS is exploring the opportunity, they might be tagging people. As I'm working with them, I might be tagging people, and we can work together to really understand who do we need to talk to for performance analytics. I'm also able to associate them to personas like that are specific to my BU, and we're able to define those at applications. So for PA, it's just PA, and I don't really do this. But if I had something different for somebody who's specific to discovery or specific to project management, you could tag them to the applications that they relate to as well.
And so I need to open this to be able to do that, right?
Yeah, both of those are lists, so you do have to open the record to do that. And it's optional if it's valuable for you. It normally is valuable for me to do, so I go ahead and do that.
Yep.
So I have my contacts. So in this case, I know when Steve told me to find out what's going on with Nike, I now have who am I going to talk to at Nike. Really helpful to get started. Then I have the general CRM information to understand what's going on, the contract, the SKUs that they bought, and the line items, the opportunities that are won or lost. All that pulling live from the CRM helps me know where we're at and where we're being positioned right now, as well as the PLS forecasts that are going on, so that these correspond to the opportunities as well. But here, this is just the PLS's view of those opportunities. We have the ecosystem, which some of the BUs use and some don't, to understand what's going on in the environment there. This is essential for some of the BUs. For PA, it's a little informational. We don't use this on every call, but it is good to note if we're finding out which warehouse they're using, what other reporting tools are there. So as we're talking to them, we know which words to be used or which words we might want to avoid.
I think if I remember correctly, HR and security were both pretty influential at helping us get this kind of in the scope of what we're talking about, right? They've been doing this for a while.
Absolutely. Very essential for those two BUs, helpful for many of the other BUs.
Exactly.
And this is all, and that's all stored so that we can easily report on it as well. It's not, none of that's text fields. They're all choice lists so that we can really pull that up and get how many customers have this or have that. Then the next thing I look at is store apps. So I'm seeing all the store apps that the customer has right now. We don't have a good way of filtering this out for BUs, but for PA, we have some borderline competitors in the store. And so it's really important for me to understand they're using this functionality or they're not. They're using these store apps or they're not. Integrations are interesting sometimes as well. And for different BUs, the different store apps, what that they have can provide some really interesting information. And definitely for me, there's a couple key ones that I'm looking for. And the next thing I look at is what release are they on, right? Are they having problems because they're on Helsinki? In this case, I can quickly see that their production instance is London. Great, moving on, not an issue for me. If this wasn't London, I'm gonna look at where are they at in the subprods. Are they testing London? Do they have early access on Madrid? What's going on? So having all of their instances and seeing what that release family is in by looking at the used for, incredibly valuable for me. I can also see the assigned version to make sure they're at a recent patch level. But
and this is a new attribute that we've brought in for folks who've maybe been using this up until this point. We didn't have the on-premise flag for the instance, right?
Right, which is interesting as well. So one of the things that you'll see is that there is no release family or assigned version if you're on-prem because we just don't know. So if we don't know, we're not going to show you. But we are going to look at those on-prem instances and the versions. And you can't really have an informative product discussion if you don't know what version they're running. So rather than starting that out with every call, I now know, and we can keep moving, right? They might validate for me, but we can get to the meat of the issue really quickly. So once I know where they're at there, I'm going to look at, well, what are they doing with implementations? So that's the deployment tabs, which are partner registered deployments and services deployments, as well as the implementation records, 2 clicks over. So these are pulling in the implementation records, sales is filling out. So between these, I can get a better feeling of what their plans are or what's going on in terms of implementation.
And just a caveat, I mean, this is empty because we're in an instance that we're demoing that was fresh only on June, and the sales team has done a lot of work since that point. So in production, this would most likely not be empty.
Well, and with older customers, Nike has been a customer for a long time, so it might have been before the implementation records were in place.
Got it.
Nothing's 100% accurate, but for a current customer, yes, the implementations will be there. And it's just more information for me to understand what's going on. In addition to that, even though we don't have any implementation information showing right now, we do have partner information. So the partner information is showing me, it's looking through all of the deployments, all of the implementation records, and all of the BU records where we tagged a partner, and it's showing me all the partners that we've ever found that have touched this customer. And if none of those exist, I can add it here. Norma isn't in a deployment, but I know that they are there. I've talked to them, so I can go ahead and associate them and add some notes that they're involved, right? And it might be that they're just doing some type of staff log. There's not really a deployment, but I know they're there. And that's going to help me if I want to encourage them into a new implementation, a re-implementation, to update their stuff. I now have partners that I know have been there associated to PA. And then the tab that we just are looking at now is I'm now looking at all those same things for the other BUs. So if I'm trying to find them a good partner, and let's say that I know that Linium is a good PA partner, well, Linium's already done some ITOM work, so that might make my partner matching better. And I can look at the fields over on the side of that to understand, did they register a deployment? So Fruition has actually done work with them directly for ITOM and ITSM. The BU reported are ones where where somebody from ITOM has said Fruition is there. Sales reported the implementation records, and again, because of the subprod, these are all false, but we will see that in production going forward. And then ServiceNow sub means that ServiceNow do a deployment for them, do an implementation for them, and sub in that vendor, that partner. So Linium, Nike might not know Linium was there, but we know that Linium is there. So again, in terms of partner matching, just more information is better to find a partner that people are comfortable with. Integrations.
So it looks like we've got the ability to have integration. So if we need to capture some of that, we can do that, right?
Yeah, and in PA we don't integrate directly with very many things, but for everybody else who does, this allows you to say that my BU is integrating from incident into Jira, from SAP into ITSM. So as we go through, you're able to associate those things. It comes in from deployments as well, but if you know something's going on, again, we can start tagging that and cataloging those to know what's going on.
Another big one that we got a lot of asks for is what customer programs are they involved in? And I know there's been a lot of work to get that stuff all pulled together. It looks like you're leveraging that here.
Yeah, so this has been great. We've always looked at this manually, whether who's on our pack, who's a design partner, but in Surf, there's an application that tracks all that for us. So we're just showing you the information here to understand what's going on and the agreements that have been signed. I believe there's 7 or 8 customer programs that are active, all managed through this application. We're just showing them. So if I'm talking to them, I know that Nike has been a good partner of ServiceNow. They've worked with early access for Jakarta and Kingston. I can see here they're not on my pack because it would show up if they were on my pack. I would also see if they were on somebody else's pack. I would see if they were a design partner of another business unit.
Customer data testing for event management for ITOM.
Right.
Shout out to ITOM.
We do like those guys every once in a while. So as we go through, again, it's just quickly seeing everything that's out there in Surf. I just want to see it so I can have a more intelligent conversation, know how to leverage them. I can also quickly see the BU team. So the BU team is a subset of the sales team. So the key people that I might need to talk to. If I'm going to talk to Nike because there's some issue, I'm going to check in with the sales rep. I'm going to check in with the solution consultant, my PLS. So seeing all those things in quick access rather than going to the account and looking for them, we're just going to show them here. And as we go into cases, if I'm going to take action, I'm going to create a case. So oftentimes Heath will create a case for me and send it over my way. And if not, I'll go ahead and create a case. If I get an email from a PLS, if I get an email from an SC, if I get a call directly from a customer or an escalation, if I get a call from support for some help, I'll normally log a BU case so that there's visibility and traceability into all of those touches that we have.
Little advertisement, if you haven't already watched the PSP customer interactions cases video, you need to do that. Olivia from Performance Analytics, who's like #2 in the usage of cases, she gave us some great tips on how she uses it. So I encourage you there.
And I believe there's a video for customer stories as well that goes into much more detail. But to record the good things that are happening with that customer, we'll record a customer story so that we have that cataloged about what's going on. And then the last tab I look at the BU profile are the other BUs. And what this is are the other BUs BU profiles. So looking at this, PA does not go alone. We are never alone. We are always better together. We are only better together. So I'm going to quickly see that that Nike's licensed for all of our stuff, or almost all of our stuff. So I can make sure that we have a conversation with them to say, let's make sure we're using PA broadly. And this helps me understand, am I going to focus in on ITSM? Am I going to focus in on ITBM? And here, no, we want to make sure that we have a very healthy performance analytics organization to support all of the applications that they're licensing for us. This is really
their temperature's getting up, so we probably should get back on Heath's little path that we need to look into. So I'm assuming you got the business unit. You can see where they are as a company with our other business units, but you know, this apps is probably where you're going to go down to get the next level of information.
Right. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at what are they licensed for, because it might just be, even though they're using ITBM and ITSM and CSM, that they're only licensed for PA for ITBM and ITSM. So I'm going to get a quick scan of what's going on there. And in this case, it's pretty easy. We're only licensed for PA Premium, which covers everything. So I'm going to jump right into that CAP record. The BU profile gave me a great overview of my relationship with Nike, but now I'm going to focus in on what's going on. So that's going to give me much more detailed information dealing with Performance Analytics Premium, this specific application, and Nike. So I have when they first licensed.
Very similar. Yeah, this looks very similar to the business unit profile, but it's the next level down of information at the application level, right?
Right, and as we grow and expand, the BU relationship started at one point in time, and that's the date it started, but they might have just added in this new application. So this gives me that granularity that I want to see. So here we're looking at the license information. They're licensed, it's great, how much ACV it's getting, when they're up for renewal, again, very important. I'm going to look at the implementation information. So at an aggregate level, this may not make a lot of sense, but here I can see that they're implemented and they did it themselves. There is no partner. We never saw a partner because they did it themselves. If I have this from services or a registered deployment, I'm going to have some more dates about when the deployment is scheduled to start, did start, completed, who did it. But in this case, self-implemented is a pretty simple answer. Then we're going to go to adoption. So we leverage in performance analytics, we leverage a lot of the adoption information, which helps me understand that adoption status. This is, I think, changing for all of us as we're maturing, but this tells me that they're using PA, but they're not getting everything out of it I want them to get out of. So the some use or demo state you'll see tells me that something's going on, but not enough. I'm also, again, quickly here going to see they're on London. This could matter if they had multiple production instances, because one might be on London, one might still be on Jakarta. So it's always important if you have multiple instances to verify you're looking at the right instance, but here I know I'm looking at the right one. And then
but it looks like the initial release family, that's also important, because I'm assuming you guys are like we are, which is if I was a customer starting in Berlin and upgraded to London, I could have a little bit different settings and configuration than if I started my journey as London.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it can be a big issue for us. So it's manually set today, but it allows me to keep track of where they came from. Same thing happens for versions. So most of our applications just are tied to the family, but some of our applications, including performance analytics, have multiple versions. So with those versions, I can tag for PA, they started on this version, they migrated to this new version, or they're all running the old version. So for those applications that it matters and it's configured, you'll see the current version and initial version, which again are not the same thing as families, but those are here as well. So then we go to overrides. Nothing's perfect, including self-implementations. If you have a self-implementation, then you by definition don't have a registered deployment. No partner's telling me they did it. Our services are not telling me they did it. So the way that I know that this is a self-implementation is after talking with them, I can go in and set the BU vendor type as self-implementation, which will then carry through all the systems. So we know that Nike was self-implemented. Same thing happens.
And if you knew when they actually considered themselves go live, you could fill that information in too, right?
Yeah, all of these fields can be overridden. For self-implementation, we don't necessarily get a lot, but there are other cases where a partner's doing it and they didn't register it. While that's bad behavior on the partner, we still want to make sure we understand it happened. So again, I'm able to.
In that use case, we do have this implementation not registered, which could create a little bit of an action item to go back and follow up with those partners that didn't implement or that didn't register. and kind of have some interesting conversations.
Yes. But in my reporting today, rather than fix all the system, I can't boil the ocean. So these overrides allow me to make sure that my reporting's as accurate as possible and consistent. But we still keep the old data so we can always derive what's going on and make sure we can follow up later on. I have the timeline tab as well. Gives me the key dates and some key times about what's going on, when they became a ServiceNow customer, when they bought this application, when they bought services, when they started their implementation. Again, all those key dates help me understand where we're at in our life cycle. If you bought ServiceNow last month, then I can understand why you're not live with PA. If you bought ServiceNow 6 years ago and PA multiple years ago, I'm much more concerned if you're not into the full use category. Some use is progress, but full use is better. Let's go into programs. The same thing we saw. This is literally the same list that we saw in the BU profile, but we show in the CAP profile because sometimes I'm very specific into an application. I know they're having a problem. This can carry over. They're having a discovery problem. You're going to go straight to the discovery app. I don't like to click back and forth. So the vast majority of the information I need at the app level is at the BU level, and the BU level is at the app level where it makes sense to do. So again,
makes sense.
They're a good partner for me. The team here, this is the sales team. We don't track a team dedicated to each application, just at the BU level. And the team here is referring to who the PLS is, who the SC is, who the sales rep is. And then references, not all the BUs have references here. This is optional if we want to opt in, but it allows me to track that Nike is a sales reference for Performance Analytics Premium. Or we're trying to get them to be a target, or we're trying to get them to be a reference. That's something that each BU does a little bit differently, but these fields are here if you're using that.
And if you're looking for more information on references, stand by. There's a pretty good size initiative happening in IT in early 2019 that I think should help us all kind of take a step forward in that.
And then the last section we have in the sections are activities. This is going to track when things change, what we're seeing there, as well as any notes that I want to track. And as a note, so as part of PSP, we migrated from CAP V1 into PSP with the new with the updated CAP profiles, with the BU profiles. For some BUs, there's still some fields that we're figuring out how we're going to migrate everything out of. So you might see a section in here that says Legacy CAP V1. And those are where we walked in fields that are in the CAP V1 record, so we can maintain those until we've fully retired CAP V1. But you may see a section.
Yeah, that section's important to note if their BU's configured for that. But it's also probably important to note that if they have dashboards built or reports built based on CAP V1, this information will flow back to CAP V2 for the time being to keep those dashboards functioning. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, everything, if you have those reports on CAP V1, you do want to migrate them, you do want to change them, but right when we go live, you don't have to change them immediately because this data should be flowing back. We do want to retire CAP V1, but it is not going to be an overnight retirement, and it's been around for 5 or 6 years. There's a lot of fingers in there, so we made it as soft as possible as we roll this out.
Right.
Okay, so the last section that we have in here are the related lists. Most of these related lists you're going to see roll up on the profile. I believe we had 8 opportunities for PA, but there's only 6 for PA Premium, so we see those here. Again, just fine-tuned. So you're going to see everything in the BU profile is the superset of what's my relationship with the BU, the accounts relationship with the BU. We slim that down to go to the app profile. That's why I normally start at the BU profile. But here we can see the opportunities, the forecast, the contracts, contract line items pertaining just to this application. Again, they only have one application, so they're the same here, but at a greater level, they may differ. I also have those same BU contacts that are coming in. If a BU contact is associated to an application, they'll show here. If they're not, they won't. So again, why I want to go back up.
Yeah, which is why Stacy's not here.
Stacy's not here because we didn't tag her to PA Premium.
Right. Okay.
And for PA, they're all the same, but for the other applications, they can differ so widely we don't show them here. And then as we go through, we have the same partners, the same deployments, the same implementations. There's a few other flags in here having to deal with usage as they come in, which I think we need to have a follow-up session on. But the two things I want to call out specifically are use cases. So for each application, or right in the middle, for each application, we can define use cases that are not BU specific, but application specific that say, how do we expect this application to be used? And if I define those, and not every application has them, but as I define them, I can then tag this customer to say they're using this application in these very standard ways. And then I can add notes to it to add some more flavor and context, but it really helps when we are talking about references to understand, I want a customer in EMEA in the finance industry that's using performance analytics this way, right? I don't have to read every note. I can go to one of my standard use cases and find them. Similar to that is features. So use cases is what the customer gets out of it, very wide ranging. Features in the next tab have to do with very specific components of Performance Analytics Premium. Are you using Spotlight? Are you using dashboards? If you want to click on that section. And what we're storing in there is not just that they're using this feature, but how are they using it? Again, we actually have the not in use, some use, full use fields, and then notes. And we could put abandoned. They tried this feature out, they really didn't like it, but now I have that recorded. So as I'm having a conversation with them, I know where to poke the bear and where not to poke the bear. And even if I'm handing this off to another product success manager, they understand where all the history that's going on with it. We still have the instances. We have some key plugins that come through to let me know they haven't turned this plugin on or they haven't turned it off. Again, we're on the subprod, so we don't have that right now. I have the integrations, the same thing. As a note, there is a new button here which does not work. So I'm going to click on the Add Integration UI action if I need to add a new integration. It'll walk me through to get me what I need to do, but the new button doesn't work yet. We will get that fixed in the near future. The integrations was something that's part of actually the PS tracking, and so we have a little bit of friction on getting that to work. I have my usage metrics. Again, I think there's a bigger discussion about that, about what's going in, but I get a couple key usage metrics for the past couple months, so I can quickly understand I need to go look at the customer success dashboard. I need to go look at the detailed Tableau dashboard to get years of data for hundreds of data points, or hundreds of definitions, years of data. But generally speaking, I have about a half dozen definitions that I need to look at that are going to drive my conversation. And am I really concerned, or are things flowing through? So I get those here. The BU team, again, showing me who I need to call, and then my cases. Virtually everything I do, once I'm looked at this, in a couple of minutes, I can get a good overview of the relationship with the BU. I get a little bit of feeling for where they're at with the other BUs, and I get into specifically where they're having their issue. And then if I'm going to take action, that's what we're going for, I'm going to create or update a case. I'm going to make a phone call, but all of that information I'm going to access via BU case, which is here which is here for the BU, and it's also on those BU profiles. I'm going to get to that same list.
And so, Adam, I think the best thing for us to do right now is to let you just do it.
Yeah.
Is that cheesy?
I think I just got a text from Heath that I need to go do some work.
Hey, everybody. Thanks. Watch the other videos.
Thanks, guys.